So here we are. It's been 1 month since Assassin's Creed Mirage came out, and most people, myself included, could play the game from start to finish and make their own opinion about it. And after already making some videos about the game, what I liked and what I didn't like, it is time to finally put the game to the test and see if it was worth the $50 and critique it from start to finish. And I have to say that 10 years ago, this story wouldn't have mattered for me as much as it did today. After games like the Ezio trilogy or Assassin's Creed 3, this would not have been as much anticipated as it was in 2023. Because after almost 10 years, we finally get a game again that is not completely RPG focused in Assassin's Creed. And oftentimes developers always call out this back to the roots thing, also for marketing purposes obviously. But I have to say that it wasn't only marketing. Ubisoft for me actually delivered on Assassin's Creed Mirage. And just so you know, this video will be spoiler free. I will be talking about the story and gameplay and things like these, but I won't spoil any major things here. And if we start off with the story, we have to say that Assassin's Creed Mirage really takes itself extremely seriously. Like I already said that in my last video that I did about 3 things I liked about Assassin's Creed Mirage, and it's a really fresh breath of air, because in the last games it kind of felt like Ubisoft was trying to be funny with their story, and it didn't really feel like the game's stories were quite mature. But in Assassin's Creed Mirage, I finally felt like we were playing a true Assassin's Creed game again, with a lot of dark and mature topics in it. And a great aspect for me of the game is that it does not feature a modern day story like earlier AC games did. And now while this might have been a negative point for a lot of people, for me I think it was necessary, because in the last games the modern day story was really just there to be put in, to be inside Assassin's Creed. Because if you think about it, in games like Assassin's Creed 1 or in the Ezio trilogy, the modern day stories were extremely important and the whole game was built around it. And the further we progressed into the series, and especially after the death of Desmond Miles, it felt like the modern day story really lost its core purpose. And also in the last couple of games with Layla Hassan, it didn't really feel fleshed out and really just to be an accessory to be inside this Assassin's Creed game. So for me it was definitely a great thing they finally made a break with the modern day story, because I really hope that we will get the modern day story back with a more fleshed out and more thought through actual story that really fits with the story of the actual game. And that aspect for me made Assassin's Creed Mirage even more fluid. I mean, for me in Assassin's Creed Valhalla especially, when I noticed that the modern day story was starting, I really didn't want to play anymore. I don't know why. Now when it comes to Basim, we obviously knew him from Assassin's Creed Valhalla already. And it was definitely quite nice to see where he actually came from, because for me he was definitely the most interesting character in all of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But I have to say that he definitely isn't an Ezio or an Edward Kenway. And also when it comes to the antagonists of the game, they don't really show a lot of layers like we had with Haytham Kenway or an Al-Mualim from Assassin's Creed 1 for example. But some characters, and especially the assassins, are actually very unique and quite memorable. Like Roshan for example, the mentor of Basim, really made this game feel more Assassin's Creed-like. I mean, to be fair, I had to get used to the voice actress, because she actually sounds like a junkie that's smoking all day from a central station, but the character all around really brought a lot of life into the game. And it's very weird to say that, but I'm so glad that in the story of Assassin's Creed Mirage, the assassins are finally in the center again. Like, when was the last time that we were able to say something like that about an Assassin's Creed game? Even though it sounds funny, actually the assassins kind of lost importance in the last couple of games. And here finally the going back to the roots aspect is fully embraced, and you finally have your mentors back, you have the assassins bureaus back, and it's really a right step in the right direction for me and for Assassin's Creed in my opinion. Obviously I won't spoil anything from the story, but in the game there are some cliffhangers, but they're quite foreseeable and you could see them from miles away. But one thing that I really have to point out here are the missions from Assassin's Creed Mirage. And here for the first time, the quality over quantity aspect of the game, which the game actually follows in my opinion very well, is fully brought to life. In Valhalla or Odyssey, there were so many things to do, such an overwhelming amount of side activities and side quests, and in Mirage it felt like only those things that were necessary were put into the game. And I really have to say that I enjoyed the black box missions quite much. You know, it's not on the level of a Hitman, for example, but it's great to be able to play a mission how you want to play it and fully be able to do almost everything you want. And the story of AC Mirage is definitely one of the shortest in the series. You know, you could definitely see everything there is in under 20 hours, which is quite a big difference compared to the almost 100 hours that you spent in Valhalla or Odyssey. Now, when it comes to the gameplay of Assassin's Creed Mirage, it's actually very nice to say that an Assassin's Creed game finally focuses on stealth again. And I feel so dumb sitting here and talking about an Assassin's Creed game saying things like these, but it's the absolute reality. In the last couple of games, stealth was not rewarded at all. The game was actually telling you, go and play this game only using hand-on-hand combat, because you'll sit here for thousands of hours if you're trying to stealth kill everybody. And in Assassin's Creed Mirage, the game actually tells you the complete opposite. Like, the game completely rewards stealth. You know, you get XP for stealth kills, and if you rush into a room with your sword out and the enemies actually attack you, really often, and especially on the higher difficulties, they hit you a lot and you get killed very easily. So here I really have to say thank you, Ubisoft, that you finally put a bigger emphasis on stealth again, because the stealth is one of those things that really puts Assassin's Creed apart from other games. And now Basim is able to do a lot of things, unfortunately no actual double assassination like we had in earlier games, but he still feels quite fast and fluid. And in the game we have a skill tree again, but this one actually features maybe 25 skills that you can actually unlock, and those skills actually give some importance for the actual game. You know, it's not like it's small percentage damage booster like we had in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The skills that you unlock really make the gameplay as a whole better for me. And the tools that you're able to use also give a lot of freedom. Like, I mostly used the throwing knives, but you have a lot of things that you can use if you want to, and it's really up to you whether you use sleep darts, berserk darts or smoke bombs. You for yourself have the choice and can choose which tool suits your game style the best. But the gameplay has one big aspect that I didn't really enjoy and didn't really like in the game. And I'm talking about the movement of Basim in the game. I mean, look, when you're on an easy parkour, or when you're moving around the city or around the roofs, he really feels a lot better than Ivor did. But when the scenery gets more complex, and you have more things to do and more things to grab onto, the game doesn't really know what you're trying to do. I mean, if you think about it, we're only able to press a button and then the game somehow decides for itself what we players would want to do. And this sometimes results in smaller problems, like Basim not grabbing the edge that I wanted to grab, but sometimes it comes with even bigger problems. Like, for example, sometimes I was trying to be stealthy and was trying to jump on a line, but Basim actually didn't recognize the line at all and just fell down into a horde of guards. And that is because the game is still based on the movement of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And if you think about it, in Valhalla we did have parkour, obviously, but 90% of the game were roaming the huge world, riding on your horse, and it wasn't really involving a lot of advanced parkour. So that's a thing that, in my opinion, earlier Assassin's Creed games did way better. Like, if you remember, in earlier games we were actually able to pick the edge that we wanted to grab onto, and thus being able to move more freely, in my opinion. And in general, the parkour definitely feels very good, but in some more advanced sceneries you really notice and feel that the game's parkour was actually based on an open world game. And in my playthrough I also discovered some bugs that I already talked about. Like, for example, I couldn't hear the voices of some characters, and the bug, even though after restarting the game was removed, it was coming back and back after every couple of hours. Or NPCs just going through each other like they were air. I mean, those bugs are definitely not game breaking, you know, just some annoying things. In general, I have to say that on PC this game runs very smoothly and the bugs were very manageable. Okay, so now we come to my favorite part of Assassin's Creed Mirage, and we will be talking about the open world of the game. And here it's very important to mention that Valhalla and Odyssey and Origins were extraordinarily big open worlds, and the game's developers definitely took some risk with this game being only a small percentage of the size of the earlier games. But oh my, Baghdad is freaking incredible. And for me, the open world feels like a true modern AC open world should feel like. I mean, each district is completely different and the game feels so alive with so many NPCs roaming around, doing their things, and it's such a big spike in quality compared to Valhalla for me. Because in Valhalla I sometimes just felt like they just made it bigger so they could market it better and say how huge the open world is. But in Mirage, even though it was such a comparably small open world, it was everything Assassin's Creed needed. And you know, I played the game like really in depth, and if you read through the codex pages, I was really amazed on how much information Ubisoft actually gathered while creating this game. And I mean, everything in the world has some historical background. And the parkour is also made for a true assassin. As I said, the movement may be a bit clunky, but still just parkouring with Basim through the roofs of Baghdad really feels incredible. And for the first time in ages, I was finally able to play the game like I wanted to. And for the first time in ages, I was finally able to play spy missions like I always did in Assassin's Creed. When I was tailing somebody or being a spy, I always went through the roofs of the cities. You know, I never really followed them around every corner. All the time, I was immediately climbing on the roof and observing them from there. And I was finally able to do that again in Assassin's Creed Mirage after such a long time. And I'm really grateful to say that. The game's city is so dense and packed with places and interesting sites to visit, and it's really an extremely fleshed out open world. And obviously, I mean, if you look at the pictures on the screen, the game looks incredible as well. You know, the graphics and the lighting also make great jobs. I have to say that I had a little problem with the facial animations that really don't feel up to date, and sometimes the emotions that the characters in the game felt were not really portrayed through their faces, but if you just look at the game, it looks absolutely incredible. And in the game, for the first time in the whole series of Assassin's Creed, in my opinion, pickpocketing actually became valuable. Because if you would pickpocket an NPC in earlier games, you know, you always just got some coins or some unnecessary crap. In Mirage, you actually get things that you can sell for a lot of money, and the more important thing is that you get the merchant tokens. And the merchant tokens are a very useful tool, because through using them, you can actually bribe people, which will then help you and make your missions easier. And in my open world video, I already mentioned the interior of the game, which for me was very impressive, because the last time we had interiors like these, for me was in Assassin's Creed Unity, and some places from Mirage on the inside had incredible designs. And in the game we actually have an eagle again instead of a raven, but to be honest, I almost didn't use him because every time I was trying to fly over enemy territory, there was a marksman that was shooting my eagle. But in all fairness, if you're deciding to play the game, I wouldn't recommend to use the eagle either. Just discovering the game by foot is way more fun, trust me. I mean, if you think about it, in the game I used fast travel maybe 5 times in my 25-hour gameplay. I mean, that's incredible. In every other game, in Valhalla, if I'm being honest, I was using fast travel even for a couple of 100 meters because I was becoming so bored of the open world and of the game. In Mirage, even after finishing it, I felt like I wanted to explore the world even more. And that's a great emotion that games should aspire to create. And even when I was going into enemy territory, I didn't really miss the eagle as much as I thought I would, because you can actually use the assassin's focus that can kill up to 5 enemies, but mostly just sneaking around and killing enemy by enemy really makes us feel like a proper assassin. So after spending 27 hours in Assassin's Creed Mirage, I have to say that it is almost what I want Assassin's Creed to be. You know, the game didn't feature an overwhelmingly huge open world or story. Thereafter sometimes feels very boring and unnecessary. The game really puts quality over quantity. While it does have some negative aspects, like the clunky movement or the weak facial animations, the pros definitely outweigh the cons for me. And in Assassin's Creed Mirage, you don't really see much new inventions, you don't really see a lot of flashy combat, you don't really see what most games today are, but maybe that is actually what Assassin's Creed should actually be.